Episode number 100 with Steve and Mike. Welcome to the Heads Up Poker Podcast. This is Steve Barton.
And this is Mike Snyderman.
And we are on episode 100. Can you believe it, Mikey? Almost 2 years running.
Yep. I knew we'd do it, Steve. From the first time we met in that bowling alley, our eyes locked. There was something, I knew somehow together we'd get together and work on, build something totally trivial and unsubstantial that would last for a long time.
You know,
this is what we've done.
Yes. You know, when I knew that you and I were going to be good friends was when I was bowling, and I think by frame 8 I was up to a whopping score of about 67. And you mentioned to somebody, you said, you know, I bet with about 2 hours of coaching, Steve could be a 250 bowler. I don't know what it was that impressed you about me, if it was my form or what, but I was like, this is a guy that I'm going to know for a long time.
I probably thought you were like one of those special needs people, Steve, and I was just trying to build your confidence, make you feel good about yourself, but no.
Yeah, it worked. It worked.
Okay,
yeah.
That's good. Yeah, this is pretty cool, man.
I know. This is when we started this podcast. I remember the first week we got 4 downloads. I was
right,
and now we're getting thousands a month. We're approaching the 100,000 total download mark. I never would have envisioned it would have been like this back in 2014 and around Christmas. That never could have imagined. But this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, nice work, Steve. It's all you.
No, I, like you said before, I've been the workhorse behind this, but the dynamic that you and I have, I really enjoy. I'm just going to keep doing this as long as I enjoy it, and this has been a blast for me, so I just want to keep rolling.
And, and we still, like you said, the number of people listening each month is going up, so we're doing something right.
Yeah. Well, how did your day at Boy Scouts go?
I'm tired. That Boy Scout, we've discussed this, is quite a investment of time. I was already tired, of course, from crying for 2 hours last night watching the election results.
Yes.
That was. See, I love election night anyways. I don't know if this is something you normally watch. I know this year you had a candidate you cared about, but I normally like it anyways. And last night it was just it was just fascinating.
You know,
and then terrifying, but in my opinion. But
I almost fired. I looked at the Vegas odds just before I left for work, and I think Hillary you had to lay $550 to win 100. And I thought, this is going to be the easiest $100 I ever made. And I just couldn't pull the trigger. I thought, you know what, if it was around like 400 to win 100, I think I would have run that. But I never would have bet on Trump. He was plus 375 when I left the house. And
yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Usually all these pollsters have it down to like, pretty scientific precision, how close the election. And they know which states it's going to come down to. But it's never like somebody actually wins a state that they didn't even really think was going to be close. Like Trump winning Wisconsin was just, in Michigan was like off the map. They thought, well, maybe Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Florida, and he's got a chance. But I don't know. It's kind of funny though. I don't know if you saw. I had a pretty long rambling post on Facebook giving my reactions to the election, and I was describing my own like reaction to this. I don't want to use the word culpability, but like the beginning of the night, I was rooting for Trump just because he was the underdog.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I was watching a basketball game or something. So Trump was scoring early, and I could see, I wanted to see all these liberal phonies in New York and Washington feel panic, but I just assumed Hillary's going to win at the end. They kept looking at that map of Michigan and looking at, there's only 3% of the vote counted in Detroit. So, they'd go back to Detroit, and of course everyone's voting for Hillary and the votes are coming in, but of course they're still counting in all these rural counties too. And so,
Yeah, little places with a population of 800 and 700 are going for Trump.
right, exactly. So it was like offsetting, and it wasn't really cutting. And they're like, wait a second. Yeah, you could just feel the commentators. It was just all building. Like, what this is really happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was all entertaining for me, and then all of a sudden, like, wait a second, is this man really going to be president?
Yep.
And yes, he is, Steve. So how were you? But it is funny we were talking about the betting line. I mean,
Was I doing backflips? Is that your question?
yeah, I mean, you must have been like in a great mood last night, right? Was this fun for you?
It was fun for me. Yeah, I was at work, and we all had dinner, and then everyone's sitting around watching the election. We're going to watch.
You're getting paid, by the way, while this is happening. I want to point out.
I was getting paid. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
In a recliner, actually. Yeah, actually having some. No, we didn't have ice cream, but I had some kind of treat. I can't remember what it was.
I assume a lot of the fighters probably lean. There's a lot of pro-Trump people there.
No,
No?
actually,
Okay.
I was definitely in the minority. I couldn't really tell where everyone was because we've kind of thrown around a few politics here and there, but everyone knew Hillary was going to win, so what's the point of the discussion kind of thing?
Right.
And when Florida went, the whole room kind of got silent, and probably 3/4 of the guys went, "Oh, son of a bitch." And that's when I knew like where everyone stood, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to quietly keep my mouth shut here. But I'm silently doing backflips and cartwheels out of the room. And for me, it's like, how can I put it? Okay, I've never really been a fan of Hillary. Like when I hear her say things like she's going to get big companies to pay their fair share. Like when I hear that, I hear that she's not going to, lower the taxes so they'll actually want to come into the country. She's going to continue to keep the tax rates high, and they're just going to go to China because they're only charging 17% and we're charging 40. Like they don't care. They would like to stay here, but they're just this big business that's just a machine that wants to make money.
Well, Steve, it'd be impossible for us to make, China doesn't have our strict, regulations for environmental policy and for, worker safety and all that. And obviously it's poor, so the people are going to work cheaper. So they're always going to go to China. You can't, even if you reduce the taxes, 75%, it's still probably cheaper to build things in China.
You might have a point there, but I would argue that we would have much higher quality than, the
so
old
how are we gonna pay?
Came from China. When you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, well, you get what you pay for.
Well, we have a $20 trillion debt, and the problem is we're never going to really reduce spending because we can talk about special interests, but we need tax revenue, Steve. We need money to pay for everything. I mean, I don't know where else that's going to come from, other than the mega corporations, the super rich.
Well, okay. Let me say this. I feel like we can't talk about these two candidates without at least talking about Obama. By the way, if this is your first episode, go ahead and you just want to hear poker, go ahead and fast forward to the strategy section. There'll be a little link in the show notes. We're going to go off on a tangent now about politics. Okay. Obama is probably the best speaker that we've had since JFK and maybe Roosevelt, right? That's pretty undebatable, right? The guy he can walk into a room and instantly everyone likes him. He's just a good speaker. His tone, everything, like he's just a really likable guy. You know what I mean? Like other countries like him. We had a fire chief like this actually. And he didn't do a whole lot, but he was a really likable guy, and but we had a nickname for him, and we called him Slow Joe. He didn't do anything, but just a really nice guy. I look at Obama kind of like that, But one huge flaw that he's got is that he's doubled our debt. He's the $20 trillion man, and before he's leaving office, he approved an agreement that allows unlimited borrowing by the Treasury until March of next year. Now, and not only that, but this unlimited amount that they can borrow, there doesn't have to be any payments on that loan for 10 years, and the juice is just running the whole time.
Well, I agree. We're always talking about, abortion, guns, race, and we're ignoring the fact that just economically we're running a huge Ponzi scheme that's ready to collapse. But yeah, so how is Trump dealing with this? He wants to reduce taxes, increase military spending, increase build a wall. That to me sounds like a recipe for even a bigger explosion in debt.
Well, okay, maybe you're right. Again,
Trump's trade deals. What he's saying is not reduce, get rid of taxes for these corporations. He's saying if you want to sell goods in the United States, if this is what he means, then I'm for it. You have to actually make the stuff here, which they do in a lot of other countries. They protect their industrial base. I don't know. This is a battle that should have been fought 30, 40 years ago when everything started moving.
But Obama certainly did not do us any favors when it comes to that. I feel like he's treated our account like a freaking credit card. And then after that agreement that he did, the one that, the loan doesn't have to be paid off for 10 years and the juice is just running while it's going.
Well, yeah, I agree.
He's got the freaking
I still don't know.
He's got the balls to say that this agreement is paid for in a responsible, balanced way. How responsible is that? Like, what is he doing, Is he doing it on purpose? Like, all these golf games with NBA players and stuff, like how much, business politics is being discussed out on the golf course with celebrities. Like if he was doing this with, one of the head honchos in India, or I could understand that. There's certain politics that go well over a golf game, but when you're out there with NFL players, like, come on.
Well, I've got liberal friends who kind of feel the same exact thing, but from a different viewpoint. They just, this one girl I know just hates Obama because basically because he's having too much fun as president. I guess what you're saying. Yeah, he shouldn't be golfing. He shouldn't be that. He should be fighting to undo this and make this and this. She wants a tenacious warrior fighting for liberal causes. So. I guess there are people who have respond that Obama's just. I like Obama a lot, and a lot of these problems he inherited at some point, like the whole mess in the Middle East. Again, they got to take some ownership of this. The fact that things have gotten worse for sure, but never should have invaded Iraq. But beyond all these issues, it's like, how did Trump become president? I guess it's just a reaction against Obama, is what you're saying.
I think so. I think Obama went so far on the other side that, and it's like that. There's a whole bunch of people out there that probably didn't want to admit that they're voting for Trump, but they all kept quiet, and they obviously showed up to the polls.
Well,
there's these polls that they took beforehand, Hillary was a landslide winner. And,
a lot of people don't. It's kind of funny. They're sticking the microphone. They're sticking the camera in front of Tom Brady's and Bill Belichick's face. Did you vote for Trump? And they're just kind of like not saying anything. But of course, in a lot of small town white America, it's like middle finger to your face. Yeah, ask me if I give a damn. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let's just step back and look at Trump for a second here, Steve.
Okay.
Like I said, a lot of my friends are big Republicans, and I go into Trump about this and that, and he said kind of there's like political correctness has gone so far that we just had enough. Like this is the result. This is what you get.
Yeah.
Which I guess I understand, but the man Trump, he's just not qualified for this job, Steve. He really isn't. He's going to be an embarrassment to the country. That's just my opinion. He talked about his cock during a debate, Steve. or during a speech.
When it comes to politics, you're right. He
no. This has nothing. He's just a deeply. There's a guy at the casino, Steve, who I love, and he has his "Make America Great" hat. He's totally loves Trump and this and that. And I said, listen, I'm going to watch the debate, and for the first time in like forever, I really don't know who I want to vote for, because I agree with Trump on a lot of the foreign policy and the trade stuff. I said, but he's got to sound. At some point, he doesn't have to apologize or sound contrite, but I want to see someone who can like look at themselves critically. Like, give me a flip. And I said, I don't want to hear any more of this crazy shit about Obama was born in Nigeria or whatever. And he sounded okay for a few minutes, but then they asked about the birther movement. I mean, maybe we already talked about this in the podcast. And he just goes off on a tangent about, well, Hillary's people went to Africa and discussed that. He's talking about some political operative. Basically, he's not backing away from the fact that he was, investing massive time and anger in something that was a total fiction. This idea that Obama wasn't born in Hawaii. Yeah, I mean, and like all this, I mean, I'm not on the cutting edge of women's rights, but it's just it's gonna be embarrassing because he's still gonna be talking like this. Specifically policy, I don't know. Maybe he's gonna bring in all the. I mean, this is what I've said maybe to you and other people. I said, like Obama during his Republican nomination speech, he says, I'm gonna defeat ISIS and I'm gonna do it quickly. You can't find one terrorism expert or one foreign policy expert who would agree with that statement, that there's anything you can do to make it quickly. Which Trump maybe deeply can say, well, it's just politics. You say something like that. He understands it's going to be difficult and he's going to bring the right people in. But I don't even know if he's curious about that. You know what I mean? He's going to bring people in and he's going to get bored. Because that's not what he wants to do as president. He wants to get in front of a crowd and tell people to choke protesters. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the good part of the job for him. I mean, for Obama, maybe the only part of the job he likes is getting to golf with Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. All I can say, I was like, the Republican Party is just made to be the party of dissent. And they do a good job of that, and they bring up, good points. But they're just not qualified to actually to govern. It was like the Bush years. It was like the Republicans, they got their man, they had the House, they had the Senate, and they gave us just massive debt, the most insane war. And near the end of it, it was kind of funny. Like the day when Obama beat McCain and, Bush was still in the White House, I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh. I was curious, what those people are thinking. And the market went down the day after Obama won the election. And Rush is like, the Obama... the Obama depression has began. Like talking about already like blaming the economy on Obama. He hadn't actually done anything yet. So I have this opinion that the Republicans were actually relieved and grateful that they had a Democrat back in the White House, so they could go back to just bitching about all this stuff, and they wouldn't have to take responsibility for anything. So that's what Trump has done. He's obviously he's appealed to a lot of people who have some serious grievances about where the country's going and all that. But I'm just stunned that he won the election, I guess. I don't know. But
my main fear right now is not how other countries perceive us or any of that. I don't want to be like Greece. I mean, I believe that if anyone can turn us around from turning into Greece, I believe it's him. At least anyone that was on the ballot. I mean, those poor people. They've taken enormous pay cuts. They've taken tax hikes, and then they've lost their pensions and their retirements and their freaking bank accounts. I mean, imagine your bank account, your bankroll, just vanishing like a fart in the wind overnight. And some of the things that led to this were, number one, denial, and number two, inefficiency. And that's what led to their fall, their demise. They're taking out billions in loans that they have no way of paying back. And I see us doing the same thing and going down the same road. Not nearly as bad as they are, but the way we're going, it's the same thing. The debt's not going away. We have to address it.
Well,
and,
I still don't know.
At least that's what I think. I could be wrong, but
well, I mean, Hillary had a pretty good response during, Trump was giving something, a lament along these lines about the massive debt and all this stuff. And then Hillary jumps in, well, Donald, if you paid any taxes the last 20 years, maybe we wouldn't be in this kind of situation. So,
this is the game that they make you play. It's like I've talked about before, is that you have to write off everything. Just make it a flat rate. Everyone pays 25%. So when you make $100,000 that year, $25K is going to the government, and you're done. Then the guys that are rich and wealthy, they've figured out the game better than everyone else, so they pay less taxes. They're still paying millions every year, which certainly seems like their fair share to me, but they've just figured out the game better than the rest of us. That's all. That's what they force you to play, is that game. But if you just make it 25% across the board, or 20 or 15 or 30 or whatever we agree on, then that seems real fair to me. Whether you're making 10 grand a year or you're making 100 million, it's the same.
Well, I don't know how intelligently I can talk. I mean, the funny thing is I kind of agree with the whole, America's going in the wrong direction and we're on the part of some inscrutable decline here, but I really don't see as like Republicans or rich. I mean, a lot of like what you talk about is going on in Greece. The rich guys are already leaving this country, like hiding their wealth, and they did a big thing on all these stockbrokers and all these hedge fund managers who actually hid their money in Europe after the 2008 collapse. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of guys who are actually, getting rid of their citizenship and moving to Mexico. Rich guys, retirees moving to Costa Rica just to avoid paying taxes.
Can you blame them?
That's what a lot of these rich guys, they'll say, well, the taxes have gotten too high. We've got no choice. But to me, it's just, a bunch of scoundrels who are unpatriotic and just getting the hell out and taking every dollar they have.
They're unpatriotic, so they should pay more to a government that no matter how much they pay, it's never enough.
Steve, let me start in a different direction. Me and another buddy are always talking about this because we have, we've got our friends who make their $200,000 or $300,000 a year and they got their houses. Those guys are much closer to the bottom than they are the top. So if we went through, now listen, if you're going to cut taxes on the rich, you agree that's going to mean less money for the government, right? So you're talking about a reduction, and we need a massive reduction in government spending. Do you agree with that?
God. Look at Social Security alone.
Okay, so my point is the military is very strong and influential. I mean, getting rid of the military, we're building, $20 billion jets that we really, frankly, don't need for our current. But the military, it's going to be hard to reduce the military, right?
I agree.
Okay, Social Security, what are the chances of making meaningful cuts into Social Security? Are you ever going to get public support for that?
I think now we might.
The answer is no, by the way.
Okay.
It's one of those things where a lot of people would agree with it. Well, Social Security is out of control with their debt. Should we deal with it? Fine. But then all of a sudden, if the baby boomers decide, or people learn that their grandmothers are going to have to move in, their elderly parents are going to have to take care of because there's no public money to do it, then they see things differently. But basically, what I'm saying, Steve, the first people to go will be like the firemen and the mailmen.
Government workers.
Yeah, it's just I think maybe again we have this conversation. I was bitching about the post office. Probably it's either not going to be around in 20 years or it's going to be really diminished to the point where you certainly will not be able to get mail delivery at your home. There might be some centralized post office with boxes that people give, and it'll be much more efficient and rational at a certain point, just less jobs.
Well, the jobs will be different. They'll all be in IT or, you're right. There will be fewer jobs. If I got a feeling if Donald Trump or another like-minded guy took over the DMV, he would drastically reduce the wait times, and it would be far more efficient. If you put a guy like that in charge of TSA for a week, shit's going to change, and yeah, those people may be out of a job, but there's going to be jobs opening up other places. There's always an avenue to make money.
Well, you are an expert at that.
This is the way I look at Donald. I did a little bit of research on this, and he's right now he's the 320 something richest person in the world. So I divided that by the world population, and it came out to 1 in 23 million people. So if you take a random sample of 23 million people across the globe, he understands finances and economics and business better than all those people. Now, if you...
Not necessarily.
Well, let's say he's made more money than all those people. So you take several thousand from India, you take 10 grand from 10,000 people from Russia, and all over the world, just a mix of them. He's made more money than all of them. Now, just to give you an idea of what that amount of people is, that's about 2.5 times the population of LA. It's the population of North Korea. It's the population of Australia. So if you take a guy like that understands economics and finance and business that well and put him in charge of our finances, like, I can't think of a better guy. I really can't.
Well, I don't even know where to go with this, Steve. I mean, first of all, he's lucky. Can we factor that in? His dad gave him a lot of money,
That's
and
true.
most of his business is just this, the creation of like cable television, and like all this stuff where like reality TV and Marla Maple. He became a celebrity, and he knew how to sell himself, and he developed this brand, which he just gets paid for selling his name out to people.
Pretty much.
That's all he does. I mean, I don't know if he's. I mean, I'm not really qualified to say it, but I mean, I've heard other people say, where obviously people who don't like Trump, who basically say he doesn't understand business. He's like, you have to have a lot of money to not understand money. In his kind of situation, where it's just like he's got a bunch of lawyers who are just making sure he doesn't pay taxes and screwing every single person he wants to screw. And not paying for the freaking plumber who comes to the plumber's having trouble paying for his mortgage. So I don't really agree that he's good with money, or that he's going to be better for the economy than. I mean, ultimately, like I said, a lot of this is exploding debt. At some point, we're going to have. There's going to be a brutal reality here where someone's going to step in and have to deal with it, and just to keep it, there's just going to not be money. And whether that means Social Security, whether that means getting rid of the firemen, whether that means shutting all the public libraries, whatever it's going to be, at some point there's going to be just scarcity, which we're going to have to deal with. And Trump might be better at dealing with that than Obama. You know what I mean?
I think so. Yeah.
But
we're in agreement on that. Yeah, Trump would be better with finances than Obama was, right?
Well, I'm just saying, yeah, I don't know. Trump, in his mind, yeah, I guess conservatives have definitely, like myself, have a vision of things getting worse. Like liberals think, well, as long as we keep spending and we're more open-minded, liberals are more optimistic about the future. And I'm not necessarily optimistic about the future for the country. So for my instincts are going to be kind of probably somewhat congruent with Trump. But I just think I don't know, man. He's just such a shabby dude. He really is. I mean, he's just, yeah, I guess it's just weird. It's just different. I don't know. Our presidents don't talk like this. Maybe this is what we.
No, I mean, you're right. He definitely luck-boxed his way in.
Well, he didn't luck-box it. I mean, let's give him credit. He had a vision, like all the commentators last night. Trump said, forget the polls. I'm going to these Michigan and Ohio. He's going to what they call the Rust Belt. All these places that were robust, industrial towns, and then in cities and all over. And then, of course, the 70s came. All these companies started leaving. And it's amazing that these people's concerns really haven't been addressed in 50 years. So, but yeah, he had a plan. He was going to go in all these liberal cities and all these kind of Democratic leaning states and win it. And that party got to respect,
Yeah, yeah.
He's like the Republicans. The white working class voters were kind of voting Democrat just because the Republican Party. Mitt Romney. You got all these stuffy rich white guys who just don't speak to them. So he knew that there was all these voters out there who either weren't voting or were probably giving the Democratic Party the most tepid support. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's going to be weird here because my opinion all along is I thought there was a part of him that didn't even really want to be president. He just wanted to run as president and go to have big campaign rallies and just mock people who are critical of him and all that kind of part. Because he was having great fun during the election. for sure. But yeah, I don't know. First of all, there's going to be chaos in the street. Like, I mean, this isn't going to slow down. I mean, I guess at some point, if the economy goes well, if Trump's not doing anything really stupid in foreign policy, people will go back to their lives. But I think, I mean, like, if Trump showed up in, like, Oakland today, there was near riots in Oakland. Like, there's a lot of parts of the country where if he goes to, I mean, we're going to need, like, a military presence to keep, the mobs from attacking him.
It was the same with Obama.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. What I thought was interesting was after, towards late in the night, I was watching kind of late last night, probably till 11 or midnight, and Hillary gave no concession speech. And you can't blame her. She at that point probably thought she was a shoo-in. She must have been so devastated.
Well, no, she gave. Yeah, no. At one point they declared that her campaign managers out said, well, this thing's going to be too close to call. At this point, her people probably thought she was going to lose, but again, they thought she was going to lose, but they were getting ready to fight it out in case it was really super close in a few places, and it still kind of was. But once we saw that she was losing Pennsylvania, because they had practically called Pennsylvania for Hillary earlier in the night, and once we saw that Trump was building there and going to win Pennsylvania, that was kind of the end of it. And I guess she called to concede, but she had already left her campaign headquarters and was probably an hour and a half away, sleeping in the back. So she just called Trump and a lot of her people at the convention had left. So it just wasn't the proper time for her to give a concession speech. But it was weird. You'd only see that. Usually you call and congratulate someone, and then you come out and I'm sure a lot of her followers would have liked to have heard her speak that night.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
She did give a concession speech today, though. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just as a political junkie, it would have been much more fascinating last night because the crowd was there was people leaving that building just in tears, in shock.
Yeah.
So it would have been just the frustration. So I think people, the wind had kind of been knocked out of people's sails a little bit. So by this morning, people were exhausted, emotionally drained from 12 hours of, Yeah. So she gave a good speech. Yeah. I thought she's like, well, we support Trump, but it was kind of an admonishment that's saying, listen, we're not going to be backing down here. It's also, we believe fair treatment for everyone, letting them know that.
Yes.
But letting you know that they're really disgusted with a lot of what Trump says and does. But
yeah, one thing that struck me in her concession speech was she said she wanted to thank Michelle and Barack, and she said, "This country owes you a debt of gratitude." And at that moment, I couldn't help but thinking, if I was there, I would have said, "Oh yeah, a debt of gratitude to the tune of 10 trillion." Thanks.
Well, Steve, I'm glad you're not there. I hate to. I mean, I don't know. I like. I really love Obama. So he and him again. What you and I, there's people who are much more well informed than you and I who could have a more intelligent discussion about the national debt. But I think Bush was Clinton had that thing going in the right direction finally, and then Bush. I mean, obviously 9/11 didn't help things, but
no, the war certainly wasn't helpful.
So on a certain level, Bush was a little unlucky with that, but I don't know. I don't know, but it's just like all the little simple things that normally, it's funny. I was reading this was who wrote this book. It might have been Buckley years ago. It was like a comic novel about politics in Washington. There's like a standard thing where the new president-elect on Inauguration Day comes over to speak to the outgoing president. They have tea together.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's very...
passing the baton. Yeah.
Yeah. And in this novel, the one guy says, "I'm not going anywhere." Basically, no, I'm not giving up power. I'm not leaving.
Oh, okay.
So Trump and Obama together is just weird. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I guess they'll be gracious. I mean, every day politicians have to talk to people they just don't like. You know what I mean?
True.
But I mean, it's like, Trump has said Obama created ISIS, which is something an insane person would say. I mean, it's just not true. He says Obama's not born in the United States. No, and there's no doubt about it. Obama, he at one point they're talking about the Trump presidency, and he's like, well, it'll never happen. And you could tell he was just very serious. Like the very idea of Trump being president was upsetting to him. He's like, well, we're just a better country than that. The people are better than that. So just that moment, that interaction right there is like it's just a weird beginning to the Trump presidency. I mean, everything is weird about it.
That's going to be an awkward cup of tea. You're right.
Well, I mean, and just how it's going to be, I guess, fascinating too. I mean, like a lot of his, like they were talking about Trump winning Ohio. Like Ohio's got a popular Democratic governor, like all the John Kasich of Ohio, like every establishment politician there is, quote, embarrassed by him and running away from him. They're talking about this, and he wins the state easily. And it's like all the Republican leadership, they would, and Trump's support helped him win the House and the Senate. So which members of Congress are now going to be like, want to step up and be Trump's right-hand man? There's a lot of people who still don't want to be part of him, even though he's obviously knows what he's doing in terms of getting support. So
yeah, I'm excited. Republicans won the House and the Senate, and I am so curious if Trump cannot take our national debt from 20 trillion and at least lower it, then I think we're screwed. But
I don't believe in gambling, Steve. But I don't believe in gambling, but I would I'd be really surprised if after 4 years of Trump, our economy was if the debt was less. But I don't know.
We'll see.
I mean, some of the things that it wants to do that I guess would be good for the country, like long term, are bad. Like a massive increase in like drilling in the United States to get us off foreign oil and create jobs here and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's not good for the environment. It's not good long term for energy policy. At some point, the oil's just going to dry up, et cetera, et cetera. But short term, that could be a big economic boost. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But people are talking about just, his building a cabinet. This is always something like the political junkies walk. Who's going to be the Secretary of State? Who's going to be the Attorney General? So they're saying like Newt Gingrich, Secretary of State, Rudy Giuliani, Attorney General. Like basically a lot of these people who have already been kind of rushed off the stage and were like wildly unpopular when their political careers ended.
I think Christie will be in there somewhere too.
Who's that?
Christie?
Yeah, probably Christie. He might make like a good chief of staff. Ben Carson, maybe. I don't know what role he would play. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just weird. And like I said, what is, by the way, Steve, if you want to go to the Trump inauguration, I think it's going to be interesting. I've never been to one of those either.
I haven't either.
And that's just going to be, just fascinating. I'd love to just be there for that. The one guy who's a huge Trump supporter at Ocean's 11, he thought I was joking. I said, no, man, let's go to the inauguration, assuming I can afford and I'm not broke by then. I said, let's go to Maryland Live and play in Baltimore or whatever for a few days of poker, then, go over the inauguration. But I don't know if I'm going to be there. But
that would be...
I don't know, Steve. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I didn't think I had a snowball's chance in hell, but somehow...
Yeah, it's kind of funny how... there's one guy at Oceans who took a bunch of bets, getting 3.5, 4 to 1. Whatever. It depends when he just kept taking bets from Trump.
He took the bets that Trump would win. Yes,
this is the guy who loves Trump.
Okay.
I don't know how much money he made or how much the bets were, but people are talking about, hey, you're mocking your man. He's like, well, he's going to be the next president. So
he was a lot more confident than me.
Yeah. And it's kind of the one. It wasn't like I called my one liberal buddy Dave last night, and I was just like, "What the fuck's going on here, man? I can't believe this." I was kind of almost, like I said, kind of apologetic. I'm like, I just was not paying attention. I didn't. And he kind of said the same thing, and of course he's much more liberal than I. But he's like, yeah, San Francisco. I live in a very narrow world where everybody hates Trump, and he's like, in 80% of the country, people feel look at Hillary the same way that me and all my friends look at Trump.
Yeah.
Something sick and menacing. So, I don't know, Steve. It's
I felt a little bit of that when I went to Idaho at my parents' house because there was Trump shit everywhere in Idaho. They had 4 electoral votes, I think, but yeah, it was the news media. Everything was just that Trump was going to win, and that made me realize that I think that our news coverage is very biased. Depending on the location and where they're at.
yeah. Yeah, well, it's just, these are, it's just radically, I mean, the average small town in Idaho and the people of San Francisco just see America and the world in radically different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but it is, it's just a different world there.
Yeah. Another interesting one on the ballot, too, was the marijuana. I think it was Prop 64. That one passed. I was surprised. I didn't think it would pass, but it did.
Yeah, of course, all the poker players last night were talking about that much more than the election. They were happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fucking shiftless stoners who hang around in casinos.
I voted for it, and then it was pretty soon after that I kind of regretted that. I wish I would have voted against it. But my reasoning for it at the time was I was like, some people, and I'm probably just regurgitating shit that I've heard on TV, but, some guys are either going to smoke and some guys are just not, regardless of whether it's legal or not. Anyone can get it anytime they want. What the hell's the difference? At least now they're doing it legally and we can tax the shit out of it and make some money. But then I got to thinking, I'm like, maybe that's not true. Maybe if it is legal and there's dispensaries everywhere like there is in Colorado now, maybe there's going to be some new people coming in that wouldn't have otherwise tried. And although I love beer, I recognize and I realize that it's not a productive beverage, And marijuana is not either. I mean, it's certainly not good for production and efficiency. And by legalizing it, I almost think that, now we're just kind of encouraging that. I don't know. Either way, it's passed. It doesn't matter. Same as the presidency. He's our president now, and that's that.
Yeah, the marijuana thing, I guess. I mean, I could go on it. Like, first of all, I think, like, we have a right of, like, to discriminate. Like, if that takes that away, like I own a home, I don't want to rent a room to someone who smokes pot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I run a business. If I find someone smoking pot, I'm going to fire them.
Yeah.
Like I believe you have a right to do those things.
I do too.
I don't know if legalizing pot changes that, and not to be like for the kids, but I think drugs. There's already been like the de facto legalization of drugs. I mean, you've got to be pretty fucking stupid to go to prison for anything marijuana related, I guess, right? Maybe some of the big growers do, I guess.
No, but time guys, I see it all the time. I went on a traffic accident where a guy, I shit you not, he had a bong in his cup holder in his car. It was a little one, but it fit. And he ran off the road and ran right into the planter box at McDonald's. And he didn't get arrested. And I was asking the cops, and they're like, "Yeah, the way the laws are right now, it's not even worth our time." I was like,
well,
"He's got
I mean, how is
in his cup holder? Like, what more do you need? Are you kidding me?"
Right. Well, obviously, I don't want to hear any of that shit. Where you should not be able. Like, again, this is Steve. I have a very pro-business view in this. Like, you fire someone who's not doing their job, and they can like sue under the People with Medical Disabilities Act, saying, "Well, I'm a pothead. I have an addiction. I can't deal with it. You still have to, you have to hire me back or whatever."
Yeah, yeah.
That stuff actually happens where people just like they don't do their job, but they say they're suffering a mental illness, and it becomes harder to get rid of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I don't know, is there technology to determine how high someone is? Like they shouldn't be driving?
That's the problem, and that's what the police told me was they said that with alcohol, it's easy. We pull out our breathalyzer. If they don't want to take that, because they have, I guess you have the legal right to refuse, then we take them to the hospital, draw their blood, and it's done. They said with marijuana, you can't do that. There's no field test, and if you take them to the hospital and they draw your blood, yeah, they can tell that there's marijuana in there, but that means that you've smoked in the last 3 weeks, and that has no bearing on the last 2 hours. So that's the holdup. That's the problem. I think what they need is, man, that's the next $1 billion idea. Figure out how to field test for weed if you're high in that moment right there, right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's something like, well, I told you I got high a few times for the first time really ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just fucking off my tits, out of my mind. Like the idea that someone could be driving around, my buddy he's stoned pretty much 24 hours a day. You know what I mean? But he's a very successful stoner. I mean, he works hard. He does his business. He just
Really,
he's smiling and happy. And yeah, that's what I'm like. I'm just like literally like physically rocking back and forth, and like I told you, I was crying one day and just
Yeah.
not hallucinating, but I mean this is, again, I'm so new to it that my system was probably just blown for a loop at some point.
It's like a kid having his first beer.
Yeah, it would probably be much less intensive experience, but like I'm fascinated that he could go around like this all day and get stuff done. But no, he drives his vehicle around all day, and he's I don't know. I have another reason for supporting it, which is cynical, which ties into our whole Trump report and why internet poker should be legal and everything else is if things are going to hell, we deserve just to enjoy life, whatever that is, and just keep us distracted. Let us gamble. Let us get high. Let us go to strip clubs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let the adult film stars not use condoms if they don't want to.
Well, yeah. No, pretty much. I mean, it's because, in all seriousness, Steve, like you said, it's not a big deal that we get rid of the mailman or get rid of all these different other jobs, but the only job they're going to find is going to be probably working at Walmart. So now these people who used to make $60,000, or these people who had $60,000, it could be homeowners who are now going to be, living in some shitbag apartment, barely paying the bills, making $25,000 a year. At the very least, let them get high.
Let them have a joint on Saturday.
No, seriously, the falling apart of the middle class, the best thing the state could do if they want to like keep revolutionary change from happening is, almost encourage drug use, frankly.
I love it.
No, I'm dead. I'm dead serious.
It's probably not even going to have that big of an effect. I was looking into into what exactly that Prop 64 meant, and basically anyone can grow up to 6 plants now, and I think that if they were really into that weed that much, they're probably growing them anyways, because there's not much.
Well, weed is definitely the least, destructive of all the, the drugs. Obviously,
yeah, meth is by far worse, and
meth and all this. But I don't know. That's actually funny. In like, Orwell's book 1984. If I remember, that's kind of like a story, an observation. This one guy who's a party member, and he's, their big brother's constantly watching, and they have the TV screen that can see what he's done, this Stalinist police state. And they're talking about how he want him to be totally committed to, the party. But then he's looking at the poor, and it's talking about the state is actually disinterested on a certain level about what they're doing. They just want him to drink and, be apathetic. So, like, the state really doesn't, they don't want the Trumps of the world. They don't want rich guys who are pissed off and getting animated. Because they could get the other rabble riled up. But as long as the people are getting high and playing poker and doing other stuff, it's like, okay, these guys are judging success by, other matters. Yeah. What movie was I just watching? Or a TV show? I can't even remember what medium. where somebody has a line, it's some rich guy who's talking about money doesn't make you happy. He's like, this is a vicious lie created by rich people to keep poor people happy.
Money, I will say that the more money I make, the more fun I have. Maybe money doesn't buy happiness. I mean, there are things that don't cost money. Hanging out with my wife, petting Mr. Kicks, things like that. But I tell you what, the more successful I've been in my life, it's certainly led to more fun. That's for sure. It allows you to travel and do stuff that you couldn't do otherwise. I think the phrase "money doesn't make you happy" isn't. It's not the money that makes you happy. It's the things that it allows you to do. Like your trip to Greece. You couldn't have done that without money. That was a lot of fun, right?
Well, we've talked about this poker related. It's like winning money at poker is just relief. So just having money should, or at least has the possibility of just making life, so it's not a fucking grind. So you're not spending, every waking hour just trying to, how am I going to make the damn car payments? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to be to get that off your. But the funny thing is too, it's people with money are more stressed about money too, though.
Yeah, there is a bit of truth to that. Yeah.
Me and my one buddy are talking about that. It's like, I've talked about that where it's just like, the economy went to shit in 2008, and I'm like, well, I don't give a damn. No, that's not true. I didn't like seeing my parents and other people, but like all my buddies who are homeowners and invested in stocks and businessmen were just like really on edge.
Yeah.
And really, really angry. How dare the government? Blah 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 blah. Whatever your political perspective is, but they've. So I don't know. I don't know if the rich people are happy or unhappy, but I know definitely a lot more money would help me navigate life a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should segue into our, speaking of money, Elliot Rowe. Here's how you make some money. You get in the right mindset before you play. You're going to be playing for hours. Spend 10 minutes before you play, relaxing to Elliot's soft English voice, and listen to an MP3 of the type of game you're about to play. I do that, and I do a breathing exercise afterwards, and bam, after 10, 12 minutes, I'm ready to play. You have to do something before you play. You have to forget about everything else, and you have to focus. That's the only way you're going to make the most money when you're playing in the moment. If you're thinking about work or a downswing or your sweetheart or your dog, in my case, Mr. Kicks, you're costing yourself money. And $1 saved is exactly the same as $1 earned. It ups your ROI. So pause the podcast, click on the link in the show notes, or go to HeadsUpPoker.Poker. You'll find the link there. You can get a free 7-minute tilt buster. It's an MP3, a meditation tape that you listen to before you play. It costs nothing. Give it a shot. You got nothing to lose. It's a win. And on that note, Mike, I was going to get you a Christmas present, but since one of us here is a JOO, I opted for the Hanukkah option instead. I got you a session with Elliot Rowe.
Really?
I did.
Well, Steve, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm touched.
It's all paid for. He's just waiting on you to schedule. I wanted to make sure he didn't.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. You're.
Is Elliot gonna record it and play it back to you if I cry and stuff, so you can laugh behind my back?
No, not at all. I will advise you though, and you can take this or leave it. The more open you are, and the more you tell him, the more powerful and the more you'll get out of the session. So don't hold anything back.
I mean, I am just like I am a mental midget here on so many levels. So it's got to. I just have to address this. It's no longer about. It's about survival. It's the difference between making, to me, actually surviving as a poker player and being able to make a wage.
It just in that one session I did, it helped me so much. And, if it can do the same for you, then, the podcast is doing well. We're getting more and more downloads each week. People obviously believe in Elliot because they're downloading his tapes, and that's helping the podcast train run. And Anyways, I wanted to give you a little Hanukkah present.
Well, man, thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's pretty sweet of you. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I mean, I don't know if we even want to bother talking about hands, but I could give. Alex is helping me out. We have kind of an agreement. I'm giving him pieces of myself in tournaments, and he's always there if I want to discuss hands.
Nice.
And he actually came over and we actually discussed a bunch of hands. And I mean, he has a more regimented actual training program for me regarding cash, which I really need to take advantage of.
That's good.
Our schedules aren't exactly congruent, but yeah, just some of the hands I sent. He's like, listen, this is just you. You should not even play poker if you can't find a fold here, frankly. Because he's just complimenting me. He's like, I talk poker with you, man. It's you know, I mean, your poker mind is fine. You understand the game as well as most people.
Yeah.
Or more than most people. But anyway, Steve, I mean, this is not new news for anyone who's listened to this. Much of this for 100 episodes and 140 or 50 hours, or however much that's been, has been a testament to the reason people who have mental illness probably shouldn't play poker. But I'm getting better at it a little bit, but still, yeah, like I said, I lost 2 huge pots set over set in like the last few weeks. One of them was like a $5,000 pot at 5-5. And then I had, again, at 2-3 the other night, like $1,100 pot. So I think it was yesterday, or it was Monday, I went and, I buy into, I really don't have the bankroll to play 5-5, but I will, I've talked about Alex with this, I will buy in a little short maybe if the game looks really good and try to, So I bought in for $700, and I ran it up to almost $2,000. And then on a Jack 5-3 board, I had a pocket threes. And basically the way the hand played out, the guy could have nothing else but a set, an overset.
Okay.
And I just didn't get away from it. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. Okay, I got it. You flop a set, you got the second best hand. It happens.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is when he shoved on the river, because I knew what he had. I'm just like, I'll call him down. Fuck it. And on the river, just so everybody knew how smart I was and, how I have suffered, I gave a speech. Guys, this is my third set over set in 14 days. It's cost me 37, It's cost me however much, $5,900, blah, 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 blah. And I take 30 seconds. And I actually call by, like, slamming my chips in the middle, pissed off. And, of course, he had a set of jacks, and I had the second best hand. So, I was talking about Alex about this. He's like, this is just, don't even bother. Just give up. Yeah. Don't bother playing poker. It's too fucking hard for you to you just cannot make a living if you're making that call there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard enough. There's just not enough bad players. There's too many good players, blah, blah, blah. If you're not mentally ready just to make the right decisions that are right decisions, then you're really lost. So hopefully Steve, Mr. Elliott, can help me out with that. Like I said, I'm getting better. I'm just playing less crap hands and bluffing less and that sort of thing. But in a lot of these big equity pots, I'm still spite calling or spite shoving with much too much frequency, I think.
Yeah.
But this bad stretch for the 100th episode, Steve, can I talk about some run bad like in the old days?
Yeah, let's do it.
I have run really bad over the last like 5 or 6 weeks. Like again, it's just just getting it in good again and again. Yeah, yesterday I sat down. I played the 5-5, the 2-5-5, and I lost the $4,000 pot there, $3,800 pot. And I went to 2-3, and immediately ran it up to like $700. You can buy it for $400, and then I lost like a $600 pot to a guy. I had pocket kings, like three bet him big. He bet 15, and I made it 60.
Okay.
At a 2-3 game.
That's big.
So that's a big raise. He had $300, and the flop was Jack 9-6 with 2 hearts, and I bet like 75, and he called, and the turn was a 6, and I shoved, and he called with 7-6.
Ew.
So and he's supposed to fold.
Yeah.
Definitely the flop. So yeah, I got it up, and I mean, I've had a lot of. I mean, technically, I guess that's not a bad beat. I did get it in bad, but it's just. Yeah, I don't know, Steve.
That's frustrating.
It's been unlucky, but maybe I can turn it around. By the way, I did bag in the $3 million tournament there. I think you know that.
That's cool. You got 40, 41 bigs?
Yeah, we'll see. Day 2 on Sunday. You never know. I'm already in the money. Free rolling from here. I made $100 in this tournament, so maybe I can. It's a fascinating tournament, though.
What now? It's several casinos combining for a 3 million guarantee, right?
Yeah. So if I make it through Sunday, there might have to be a day 3 on Monday. I don't know how many players they're playing down to, and then I think it's like a month. We still have to wait another month before everybody meets at the bike. However many people survive the other days. So and the funny thing, I was saying, when I was bagging, we were up to blinds of 4,000, 8,000, and I bagged 124,000. So that would be 15 and a half bigs. But the way the structure is, day 2 begins at 1,500, 3,000.
Oh, wow. That's weird.
So I had 15 bigs. I bagged 15 bigs, but I'll be unbagging 41 bigs.
Huh.
And, the reason is to create some play. And it's also, they're allowing people to buy in for day 2 with $4,200.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people, pros, who want to buy, and they want it to be deeper. So these guys, so that increases the prize pool. So there's many reasons, but it's pretty, strategy-wise, it'd be kind of fascinating to talk about late game stuff here, right? Is because there's 143 people and only 9 bagged, 6%.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, getting down late, you just have to bag, because even if you got freaking 8 big blinds,
That's kind of triple, yeah.
That's 22. You've got an actual, kind of a workable stack. So it seems to be open for people just, raping, for whoever the most aggressive is, just to take over. But I mean, it pretty much played.
For every blind you steal, you're getting like 2.5, almost 3 bigs. That's, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of shallow at the time too. So it's, I mean, I was kind of just playing it normal. I wasn't really falling. I mean, I was short for a while. I got down to 6 or 7 bigs and doubled, and then did a couple light rips, or not light rips, but just standard, king 6 suited from the button with 13 bigs kind of thing. And I guess I could say to myself, well, I have to fold here because someone else has 7 bigs, and this 13 bigs is quite a hefty amount of chips coming into day 2. But I pretty much played straight. But like I said, 6% day 1. I still don't know how this thing works. If with all the different starting days of the commerce, let's say there's like 4,000 different people who are playing this week to get to like 6% survive. So let's just say there was 4,000 entries in however 20 different sessions they have.
Yeah.
So 6% of that would survive, 240 people. And of the 240, I don't know how much make it to the bike. I thought it was like 6% and 6%. So if it's 6% of 240, I think it's just 6%. So yeah, 6% of 240 is, like 15 people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that, I think that's
15,
kind of the plan.
People, yeah.
So I think that's kind of the plan. Well, I mean, I don't know how many people played the bike, but let's just say it was 4,000. I'll show up, there'll be 240 people. And whether it takes 1 or 2 days, they're probably going to play down to like 15 people.
And you're already in the money, right?
Yeah, although it's interesting, it's like only 33. I got paid, actually, at the end of day 1. They all come over and say, listen, you get money paid, but when we return to day 2, you won't get more money unless you make it, you're one of the final 33% of the people who entered day 2.
Okay.
So when you look at the payout sheet of, the 1,000 people who got paid, it's going to be like between 1,000 and like 300th place are going to be getting pretty similar money, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So,
okay. Yeah. What did you get paid? It was a 330 buy-in. What was your?
It was 350, and I got paid 800. I did fire 2 bullets. The first bullet I busted real quick. I flopped a set, and the guy turned a straight. Got in.
Okay.
And so I rebought and, got lucky and ran it up.
Right on. Well, you're up
I
$100.
got to play. I played all day next to Phil Locke, by the way. That was kind of fun.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know
Any
if you.
cool hands?
I'm sorry.
Any cool hands?
No, I mean, it was just fun. I mean, it's just I'm political, so we were talking politics and environmental policy and this and that. And I was hearing stories about some of the high rollers in Vegas, and he's just a nice guy, so it was kind of cool. We didn't really mix it up too much. I opened the cutoff, and with I think it was ace-6 suited. Yeah, it was. It was ace-6 of hearts, and he was directly to my left, and he 3-bet from the button.
Okay.
And I can't remember the stack sizes and everything else. And I was tempted. It seems like a decent 4-bet spot, with the blocker and everything. But I'm like, you know what? This is the first time he's 3-bet me. I'll just let it go. Mike 2.0 here. We don't really need to go to war right now.
Yeah.
And he showed it. He showed me aces.
Nice fold.
So it wasn't. It'd be a better story if I had pocket jacks and felt strength or something. But no,
Yeah.
pocket jacks would have. It was just. It was a proper fold anyways. But it turned out that he had a monster hand.
That time he had it. Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, the play here at this thing was just absurd. Of course. But especially because of all the pros who'll be coming in and buying for 4,000. Tournaments always. I don't care if you have a 10,000 person field. There's going to be a couple monkeys who make it deep. But for the most
find
part,
their way in. Yes.
yeah. There's always going to be a couple of people. At the Colossus, you get down but pretty much when you get down deep in almost any poker tournament, you're playing against pros at the end. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. It is actually interesting for this. We got to the final 9. When we were down to 18, I was looking around. I'm like, there's only one poker pro here.
Nice.
I mean, other than myself, I'm pretty good. I didn't see when we were playing. I walked around. I saw definitely some LA regs, but we got near the end. I thought the field was really weak, but personally, but sometimes it works out like that, where your tables get easier over the course of the day, but usually no.
Usually not. No. But
Very rarely.
Yeah. Huh. That's cool.
So, where are you at in poker these days, Steve? Did you grind on Sunday or?
Yeah, I've had to work the last 2 Sundays, I think, but I've been able to squeak out some sessions in between it during the week. I did play one recently out at the Players Casino at my local card room. I got a hand from. This one's kind of interesting. It was a. I looked online on Wednesday morning, and there was just nothing happening on Bovada or ACR. So I went down to the casino. I played a $100 tournament, and I was at a table where the blind levels are 4 and 800. I think there was probably 30 or 40 people in this tournament. It started with 3 tables, but there's always alternates. They jump in. So maybe we ended up getting 33 or 34.
Okay.
But, we're down to we're at 4 and 800, and under the gun +1, he limps 800, and this guy he's going to be the villain in the hand, and he's in his 50s. He's clean cut, wearing kind of casual clothes like a windbreaker type of jacket. He's got his patented iPhone earbuds in, listening to music. And at 2 levels before, at 200, 400, there was 4 limpers, including the small blind. And from the big blind, he made it 1,200. And ironically, it kind of worked because everyone folded except for the small blind. So he got heads up in position by making it 1,200 with 4 limpers. And it showed down. He ended up having King 7. So that's like the one significant hand that I saw this guy play. He was semi-active, but that was one that kind of stood out at me. Like, I would not have done that. I would have checked behind my option with the big blind and taken a flop with King 7 suited, and for whatever reason he chose to make it 3 bigs, and by some act of God it worked. But anyhow, this guy limps under the gun +1. He limps 800, middle position, late position, limp 800. We're in the big blind, and we've got, let's see, what would that be? We've got 24K, and the blinds are Big blind is 800. So we got 30 bigs.
Yeah.
He's got 25K, so he's got 31 bigs. He's got us covered by, a blind.
Okay.
And then the big blind checks our option. So we got 4K in the pot, and we've got king queen offsuit. So I guess before I fast forward here, what would you be doing with king queen offsuit in the small blind here? Would you be completing as well, or would you raise this?
I think you can just complete.
Yeah. Okay. I thought.
Assuming unless you think the big blind is going to be squeezing with any frequency, but probably not.
No, so. She was very recreational. She was from quite a ways out of town. Obviously, she didn't play poker very much, but she enjoyed it, and this was like her one day to kind of get away. So she just wanted to see flops and see a hand.
Right.
And so she checks her big blind. We go to the flop. We got 4K. And with king queen offsuit, the flop is king queen jack rainbow. So we flop top two pair. Not a bad flop. What are we doing here? We're first act. With 4K in the pot, we got 30 bigs. What are you thinking?
I don't know. You can't really make a mistake here other than folding.
True.
I mean, what's his c-bet percentage? What do you think? I mean, is he loose? I mean, you saw a hand where he 3-bet light, I guess.
Yeah.
Or raised light. I'm trying to think how this would factor into it. Basically, if you think he's going to give up a lot with his range, you want to maybe just check. I don't know. I mean, if his c-bet is like 100%, I guess you always want to check just to make sure he puts some chips in the pot, whether you flat or raise.
He could check. He could bet. I think he's betting any king. I think he's betting any 10. Yeah. I think he's betting any king, any 10. That's probably about, and all two pairs sets. Although I think I can take kings, queens, and jacks out of his range. I think we can take all sets out of his range because he would have raised that pre-flop. If he's raising the king 7 suited in a bad spot to do it, I'm sure he's raising premium pairs.
Well, then I guess let's plan for. Let's assume he's got. Let's plan like we're not trying to get 5 big blinds out of him if he's got pocket eights. Let's say we want to get it all in when he has, when he's got king jack or ace jack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I guess check raise sounds like a good move.
I kind of like that too. At the time though, imagine that you completed the small blind. But there's 5 players in the pot. Maybe I gave it away by saying that he's going to be the villain in the hand. So we don't know who the villain is yet. If we check, we got 4 people left to act.
Right. I would just say check raise, and I mean, depending on the villain, there's 5 villains. Maybe there's one of them you can get away from if they shove. But like if you take sets out of their range, then from all the villains' range, basically the only thing you're worried about is someone flopped a straight. And I think with that situation, you just kind of have to just shrug your shoulders and say, well, I have top 2 pair.
Yeah, I ended up leading out. I let out for 2,200 into 4K. And my thought was that there's a lot of people limping here. I'm sure someone out of 4 other people has gotten something, and I'm sure that someone has a 10. And this is a table. This is a calling station table. The whole table's weak passive, except for who ends up being the villain. And I thought that if anyone had a 10, they're gonna call here, because we've all got anywhere from 20 to 30K. I figured I'm getting called somewhere, and I want to get value from anyone that's got a 10. Something like Jack 10. I think at the table, anyone that has an ace with a pair, so Ace King, Ace Queen, Ace Jack. I think they're all calling.
Right. Yeah, I'm convinced.
Okay. I end up leading out 2,200. The big blind folds. And then villain under the gun +1, he makes it 65. Middle position folds, late position folds, and now it's back on us. We've got 21K behind. And he bet 65.
Well, I'm not folding. Not right now. I would probably shove, but if you just called to, you want to reevaluate on the turn. If the turn comes at 10 or an ace, maybe you can get away from it.
That was kind of my thought here. Is I thought, looking back, I think a call might be better because then you keep all the ace jack in his range. I'm afraid if we shove here, we're only getting called by ace king, king queen, king jack. I think he's going to be able to fold jack 10 at that point. He's obviously calling with shit that we have beat. He's calling with 9-10. He's calling with ace 10. But assuming he doesn't have any sets.
If you say he's calling with ace king and king jack, then we're getting it all in ahead of him sometimes. He's also folding some equity. You know, if he's got 10x, I mean, he does have outs.
Yeah, but I feel like if an ace, a 10, or a 9 come on the turn, I think we can get away from our hand. And if it's anything else, then we're just going with it. And unless maybe a jack, we might be able to fold if a jack comes on the turn. So I guess an ace, a jack, a 10, or a 9 is bad, and an 8 and below is good.
I would just probably raise, get it in here. I mean, I don't even know.
You're just shoving?
I mean, I know how I play. If it's with like 10 to 15% of the villains, I could get away depending on how they're playing. If I saw that they're just never raising here with anything less than a set or the nuts, but it doesn't sound like that's how this villain is. So okay. I'm gonna raise, call it off.
You're gonna
or just shove.
Okay. I end up shoving, and then he tags for a long time. And when he didn't snap call, I was rooting for a call, of course. But he starts he takes out his headphones and he starts verbalizing, and he's like, "Well, you would have raised
pocket jacks, huh?"
He's like, "You would have raised with pocket kings. You would have raised with pocket queens. You would have raised with pocket jacks." And then he said, "You would have raised with ace king." And he said you would have raised with, what else did he say? He said you would have raised with ace 10, which I don't think I would have done. In the small blind there with something like ace 10 offsuit, I think I'm just completing. I don't think I'm raising there, so he was off on that. And then he was like, well, you could have 10-9, and he's like, and then finally after, half a minute, he's like, F it, I can't fold this, and he calls. And we ended up having the same hand. He had king queen as well, so we split the pot. But that made me wonder. I'm like, I wonder if he is folding like queen jack. I was thinking, I was like, oh God, let him have queen jack here. That would be amazing. But kind of the way he ran through the hand, I don't know. I don't think. Well,
what hand worse than queen jack would you be shoving? I guess king 10.
Yeah, I see. That's another thing too. Is I was thinking like if he has king 10, I think he might be calling. So maybe it was a good shove.
I think so. I mean, you almost got him to fold the best hand, and we do think there's some worse hands he could call with there. So I don't know.
Okay, all right. Maybe that was that one was bugging me. I wasn't sure if I played that right or not.
So Steve, what are we going to do for the next 100 episodes other than annoy the shit out of each other?
Talk politics.
God, no. I'll talk to you in 4 years or whenever. Trump will probably be impeached at some point, but we'll see.
I don't know. Who are some upcoming guests you want to get? We got to get Scott Stewart back on.
I don't know, Steve. We'll keep following you on your poker journey here. We'll see. Whoever you get and bring in is fine.
Right on. Cool. Well, should we wrap it up? 100 episodes in the books.
It's pretty good. Yeah. I'm sure like the people who listen to the show regularly were hoping for like a special 10-hour episode.
I doubt that, but maybe.
We could really discuss some uncomplicated hands and just stretch it out to like 4 hours.
Yes.
Oh man, but yeah, I hope you have me back on soon, and I'll let you know after I win 600K at the 3 million.
Right on. I'll be railing you on Twitter, man. I wish you the best of luck. And go ahead and check out Mike's page. He's got a website, RampagePoker.com, and go to HeadsUpPoker.Poker. You can get your free MP3. We've got a bunch of books on there from Jonathan Little and from Alex Fitzgerald. And thank you for tuning in this week. Here is your weekly motivational speech.
Love what you do. Work really hard. Focus on one thing, not everything. Keep pushing yourself. Come up with good ideas. Keep improving yourself and what you do. Serve others something of value, and persist, because there really is no overnight success. Successful people do it for love, not money. When Bill Gates and Paul Allen started Microsoft, Bill says, Paul and I, we never thought we would make much money. We just loved writing software. And the cool thing is, if you do it for love, the money comes anyway. All successful people work really hard. Martha Stewart said to me, I'm a real hard worker. I work and work and work all the time. Media tycoon Rupert Murdoch said it's all hard work. Nothing comes easily, but I have a lot of fun. Did he say fun? Yes, successful people have fun working. That's why I say they're not workaholics, they're workaholic. Now many people don't focus, they dabble, and that's okay to get started. But to succeed at anything, we really have to narrow down and focus on one thing.